Hello guys, Uncle Vasil here with yet another history video. This time we are going to explore the 5 deadliest and most dangerous armies that ever existed. I hope you enjoy. Let's get started. Number 1, the Mongol Empire Army, between 13th and 14th century. The Mongol Empire's army was a hyper-efficient war machine built on speed, discipline, and psychological shock, able to tear through continents with a level of coordination that feels almost unreal today. At its core were elite horse archers who could ride for days without rest, firing arrows accurately at full gallop and executing feigned retreats that lured enemies into perfectly planned ambushes. What made them so deadly wasn't just their skill but their organization. Units were structured in tens, hundreds, and thousands, allowing commanders to control vast forces with simple signals, while an extensive relay station network let orders and intelligence travel across thousands of kilometers faster than any rival empire. They absorbed specialists from conquered peoples, engineers, siege experts, artisans, and used them to break fortified cities that earlier nomadic armies could never touch. Combined with a ruthless reputation for annihilating any city that resisted, the Mongols often won battles before they began, as fear alone caused opponents to surrender or flee. This blend of mobility, adaptability, and psychological dominance made the Mongol army not just powerful but historically transformative, reshaping Eurasia in a single century. Number 2, the British Empire's army and navy from the 18th to the early 20th century formed a global military system unlike anything the world had seen, combining industrial power, disciplined troops, and unmatched maritime reach to shape events on every continent. The Royal Navy was the empire's backbone, a massive fleet of warships that controlled key sea routes, protected trade, and allowed Britain to strike or reinforce anywhere on the planet within weeks. Its dominance was so complete that ruling the waves wasn't a boast but a logistical reality. On land, the British Army, though smaller than many continental forces, was highly professional, battle-tested, and supported by colonial troops from India, Africa, Canada, Australia, and beyond, creating a vast pool of manpower and diverse fighting traditions. Britain's military strength was amplified by technology. Advanced rifles, steamships, telegraphs, railways, and later machine guns and ironclads gave it a decisive edge in colonial wars and major conflicts like the Napoleonic Wars and World War I. Yet this power came with enormous human cost, as imperial expansion, rebellions, and global wars contributed to tens of millions of deaths and reshaped political borders, economies, and cultures. In essence, the British Empire's armed forces were not just deadly, they were world-defining, leaving a legacy still visible in global politics and geography today. Number 3, the Nazi German Wehrmacht from 1939 to 1945 was a highly organized and technologically advanced military force whose rapid early victories reshaped Europe and plunged the world into the deadliest conflict in history. Built on a foundation of strict discipline, detailed planning, and a culture of obedience to the Nazi regime, the Wehrmacht combined fast-moving armored divisions, close air support, and coordinated infantry assaults into what became known as blitzkrieg, a style of warfare designed to overwhelm opponents before they could react. This approach allowed Germany to conquer much of Europe in just 2 years, but its effectiveness was inseparable from the brutal ideology driving it. The Wehrmacht operated alongside and in support of the regime's genocidal policies, participating in atrocities on the Eastern Front and enabling the occupation systems that devastated civilian populations. As the war dragged on, Germany's early advantages collapsed under the strain of fighting multiple major powers, shortages of fuel and materials, and catastrophic losses on the Eastern Front. By 1945, the once formidable Wehrmacht was exhausted and fragmented, its downfall mirroring the collapse of the regime it served. Number 4, the Imperial Japanese Army between 1930 and 1945 was a fiercely disciplined, deeply ideological force that combined rapid modernization with an older warrior ethos, creating a military machine capable of both swift conquest and extreme brutality across East Asia and the Pacific. Built on the belief that Japan had a divine mission to dominate Asia, the army emphasized obedience, sacrifice, and unwavering loyalty to the emperor, which produced soldiers who fought with intense determination but were often pushed into reckless offensives. Early in the war, Japan's forces moved with astonishing speed, using coordinated air, naval, and ground attacks to seize vast territories from China to Southeast Asia, supported by well-trained infantry, experienced officers, and a culture that glorified aggressive action. Yet this same ideology fueled devastating atrocities such as the rape of Nanking and widespread mistreatment of civilians and prisoners, making the army not only a formidable military power but also a central driver of human suffering in the region. As the conflict dragged on, Japan's industrial limitations, overextended supply lines, and refusal to retreat led to catastrophic losses, culminating in desperate defensive battles and the collapse of the empire in 1945. Number 5. The Soviet Red Army of the World War II era was a colossal, rapidly evolving force that transformed from a battered, disorganized military in 1941 into one of the most powerful armies the world had ever seen, driven by sheer manpower, industrial mobilization, and an iron determination to push back the Nazi invasion. In the early months of Operation Barbarossa, the Red Army suffered catastrophic losses, millions of soldiers killed or captured, but the Soviet state responded by relocating entire factories eastward, producing tanks, artillery, and aircraft at a scale no other nation could match. Soviet soldiers fought in brutal conditions on the Eastern Front, from the frozen ruins of Stalingrad to the endless forests and plains of Ukraine and Belarus, often enduring shortages of food, ammunition, and basic supplies. Yet their resilience, combined with improving leadership, effective use of massed artillery, and iconic weapons like the T-34 tank, gradually turned the tide. Between 1943 and 1945, the Red Army had become a relentless offensive machine, launching massive, coordinated operations that shattered German lines and pushed the Wehrmacht back toward Berlin. Their victory came at an almost unimaginable cost. Tens of millions of Soviet civilians and soldiers died, but the Red Army's role in defeating Nazi Germany remains one of the most decisive and devastating military efforts in human history. This is the end of the video, guys. I hope you found this educational. For more history content, please check out my channel. Also, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. VV